Peter Hitchens. Peter, in your column yesterday, your excellent column, you wrote about something that was music to my ears. It was your criticism of King Charles, and for that matter his son Prince William. But King Charles, once again, he goes over on a state visit to France and starts lecturing the world about climate change and what we all ought to do to save the planet and so on and so forth. Now, he thinks this is, uncontroversial territory that we all wholeheartedly agree with. Classic royal fare, nothing to frighten the horses. Well, I disagree. I think this is outright politics, and I don't think he should be doing it.
I've always liked his concern for the environment. I like a man who loves trees, but this has jumped the tracks in so many people to assume that if you like trees, you have to support net zero. It's not true. It's a very contentious case, and he's the king now. When he was Prince of Wales, this is why I wouldn't say this about William or Harry. When he was Prince of Wales, he could more or less say what he liked. It wasn't a problem. Now he is actually the head of state, and he cannot engage in political controversy. And in a week where one of the biggest parties in the state is beginning to go cool on net zero, you do not want a head of state being so emphatic about it. The other thing, he keeps saying it. He keeps calling the Russian invasion of Ukraine unprovoked. Well, I'm sorry. That is simply factually incorrect. It was provoked, and there are people on the anti-Russian hard right in Washington, D.C. who will tell you it was provoked. He can't do that. He ought to stop doing it. He's king now. He's not Prince of Wales. He has to stop taking controversial positions. Otherwise, he can't be king, really, for very much longer. I don't think it won't work. If he wants to be my king, then he has to represent me, and he also has to represent other people who disagree with me. And the only way of doing that, whatever his personal opinions, is to keep quiet about matters of major political controversy. It is part of his job, and he should start to learn to do it. And I thought that was the really bad thing about the Paris trip.
And it sort of left him embarrassingly kind of high and dry, really, because he clearly didn't get the memo from the government. So while he's over in Versailles going, save the planet, be green, and all this sort of stuff, Rishi Sunak is busy rescinding loads of his green pledges, saying, right, we're cutting back on.
But it's
there's a divergence.
Even worse than that. What if he did know that the government was planning to do that?
Well, it's even worse.
Then that's much worse, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just think it's time, if no one else is going to say it, it's time somebody said this is now a different world. You are not Prince of Wales anymore. You are the king. You simply cannot engage in these controversies anymore. You can't assume everybody agrees with you about these things. They don't. And you can't be their king unless you keep quiet about it. Being king is about being everybody's king, not about being just the king of Extinction Rebellion.
Here. Now, let's talk about HS2. It's one of the big subjects of the day. It now looks as if the two branches that were to connect the north to the south, if you like, the Birmingham, it was to go off to the right, or to the, the east, to go to Leeds, and then the west to go to Manchester. And guess what? It's now going to finish. It looks as if now it is going to finish at Birmingham. I cannot quite believe that we have spent what looks to me to be around about 50-60 billion pounds to get to Birmingham, allegedly 8 minutes faster. But by the time you take in new local transport requirements, you're going to have to get a special tube into central London from where the terminus is. It actually will take longer to get from London to Birmingham on the new train. That's all we got for £70 million. That's a scandal, isn't it?
Whenever you see a huge new public project of this kind, first of all, you multiply the sum mentioned by at least 7, because you know that it will get out of control. Then you add at least 10 years to the completion date, because you know it will be late. This thing was always a political project. It wasn't a transport project. If anybody wanted to do something about the railways in this country, there were fantastic things they could have done with the money, which would have worked, which is to rebuild the railway system, which we stupidly dismantled in the 1960s. There are dozens of major market towns in this country, for instance, with no proper rail connection. Put it back. There are railway lines which have not yet been electrified, which is by far the best way of powering trains, because you use any form of power to actually power the trains once you've electrified them, and they still haven't been electrified. The last time I looked, I think Azerbaijan had a higher proportion of electrified railway than Britain.
Is that right?
This is the absurdity that these things are what should have been fixed. This is always about politics and showing off. It was never about improving the railways. What we need in this country is not high-speed trains. Look at a map. Britain, the populated area of Britain is tiny compared, for instance, with France or Germany or Spain, which are countries which do need high-speed rail. We never needed that. What we need is good medium-speed rail between major cities, then connecting up to the second-ranked cities and towns which are currently cut off from railways altogether. There are the 5 major towns near my home city of Oxford were all cut off from the railways in the 1960s. So if you want to do a railway journey from any of them, you have to start it by car. So you'll finish it by car. So it helps to kill railways. It's crazy, and they were going to electrify the railway line to my home city of Oxford, and it was all part of a huge project almost as big as Trident replacement, which they engaged in over the past 10 years, and they gave it up. So the last 10 miles to Oxford has to be done by diesel. So the train switches incredibly expensively from electric to diesel power for the last 10 miles of the journey. And the whole plan was completely disrupted because somebody wanted to save a few bob. And at the same time, this colossal money pit of HS2, which I don't think serves anybody.
That certainly doesn't now.
Was carried on with. The only serious argument for its capacity was a very good railway line in this country, again butchered in the 1960s, the old Great Central Line, which would, if revived, and most of it's still there, and the track bed's still there, if revived, would be a fantastically good spine for freight, particularly for freight carriage in that part of the country, which could be done at a fraction of the cost of HS2. Part of the cost of HS2 is precisely because it's supposed to go so fast. So you have to engineer it with incredibly level lines and lots of tunnels and very expensive work of this kind, which is not necessary in medium speed rail. Right. And they've just gold-plated this project to the point where it's vastly expensive. It's obviously going to be massively late. I know there will be terrible penalty clauses, but I think that if the government simply axed the whole thing and said, goodbye, stop it, we'll try and clear up the mess we've made, most of the country would heave a great sigh of relief, and it would be the right decision.
Absolutely. I'll believe it when I see it, though. Peter, fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for